And we are now recording, and I just want to welcome you all tonight to this presentation. And I want to reintroduce myself. My name is Brooke Bollinger, and I am Director of Graduate Studies. I have been with the College of Education for about 1 year. This is a new position for the College of Ed, and I am very much we spent last year designing this position and what it would entail. I had been at ISU for 8 years prior to that, so I was familiar with the ISU processes, procedures. But one thing that I am excited to talk about tonight, before we dive into the application process, is just my role within the College of Ed. And so I thought we could actually, if you can see my screen, can you all see it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, excellent. All right, so one of the tasks of my office is to be your liaison between the College of Education and the graduate school. So Emma, I know you've heard this from me before, but just to quickly go through this, I am your point of contact, therefore, for all application questions, general policies and procedures. And overall, let's say you did enroll at ISU in a grad program with us at College of Ed, I would be your resource then for general student support. And so I hope that you will reach out to me at any time with questions. I know that you also have the ability, and you already have perhaps reached out to the program of interest, the program of study that you are interested in, and they may have been in communication with you about more specifics of that program, which is wonderful. But on the screen right here, I want to pause so that you can, if you'd like to take a picture of this screen, or if you want to screenshot it, this provides you with my email address and also the appointment link there for my appointment. So whether you need a phone appointment, Zoom, or in person, that link guides you to my calendar and you can set an appointment time with me. So again, I'll just pause very briefly here and you can write that down. All right, so for tonight's agenda, tonight is meant to be specifically focused on the application process. I think that what this will end up being is about a 15 to 20-minute presentation from me for you, followed by a question and answer period. So if you are interested, if you have questions, you can maybe make a note and then save those for later. We'll get through those in about 15 or 20 minutes. We're going to talk tonight about the overview of the graduate school's requirements for admission, as well as an overview of the timeline of admissions and requirements of both the grad school and College of Education, and an overview of application materials that you will be submitting as you submit your application, as we hope that you will do, that you officially submit it. Some of our future webinars coming up in the next month or so will include a webinar focused on the topic of financing your education. So on October 20th, I invite you to join me again. I will have some special guests from financial aid and scholarships, and also the graduate school, to talk to you about student loans or grants or scholarships applicable at the grad level, as well as graduate assistantships and other ways to pay for your education. On November 15th, I invite you back for a webinar that is focused on life balance at the graduate level. And we will have some students, current graduate students, with us to talk about that firsthand. It will be more of a panel conversation. So if that is something you'd like to hear more about, I encourage you to come back on the 15th. But that is our agenda for tonight. And so let's simply dive right in. I think the most important thing for you all to be aware of is the deadline and the timeline of application. So we have what we call a priority deadline for each semester of admission. For spring semester, it is coming up on November 1st. One reason that I wanted to hold this Zoom session today was to provide you with information tonight so that you can then spend the month of October preparing for that November 1st deadline. because these priority deadlines will actually benefit you greatly in a number of ways. By adhering to these priority deadlines, your application will be reviewed sooner. You will receive your determination letters sooner. You'll be able to prepare for your first semester in a much more timely manner than if you waited until after that deadline passes. But I will tell you that there is space available if for some reason you aren't able to hit that deadline. So again, for spring semester, it is November 1st. April 1st is the deadline for both summer and for fall. I know that's a very unique university deadline there, but that is established by the grad school. And so April 1st is what you'd want to adhere to there. Let's now look briefly at the requirements of the graduate school for the master's level. And I'm going to quickly go through this. So every applicant at the master's level, and this is true also for doctoral level, the expectation is that you have a previous degree from an accredited institution, whether here in the US or the equivalent overseas. And the second requirement that is actually shifted, and so Emma knows this from our previous webinar, but I'll say it quickly for everyone. The standardized test requirement is now shifting away. The graduate school is shifting to holistic admissions, which means that other aspects of an application are viewed more concretely than or with more priority, I should say, than a standardized test score. Now, the academic program to which you are applying may still require a test score, but let's say that your program does not. You then only need to adhere to the grad school requirement that if you have this level, this metric that you see here of former GPA, it then waives the standardized test requirement. And you can see the metric there. At the master's level, if an undergrad GPA is below a 2.499, the graduate school does not grant admission, and that application would be denied immediately with a GPA below that number. So I did want to have that metric there in case you are, talking to colleagues or peers who have questions about their GPA, and you can share that with them. So then we have the other admission requirements for doctoral programs. And I will say that sometimes what we see at the doctoral level is a requirement of a written statement or essay. This can be, many programs ask for a cover letter. Some ask for both a cover letter and then a separate writing sample. That varies by program, and that is something that you'll be notified if you should be asked to submit that. But you can see on this slide here that a lot of those admission requirements at the doctoral level are easily available on the program website for the program that you are interested in attending. And within that website, there should be a link to a graduate catalog entry, and that will allow you to see much more detail about the admission requirements for the program and also any other expectation of writing samples and all of those. Let's look now, I think giving you a very much a chronology of the admissions process might be helpful to you right now. The application is available online. It's through the graduate school. Here at the College of Ed, the application link is available on every program website. We try to make it very, very easy for you to quickly link to the graduate school's application page. And so that's where you begin. You start on the grad school website and you begin your application. You are going to need to provide all transcripts for every former institution that you've attended. So let's say that you have attended, you have an associate's degree or a bachelor's or a master's. Every institution that you've attended, let's say that to achieve your undergrad degree, you attended 2 different institutions. We will need transcripts on record for you for each of those. And we're going to talk in a minute about how to request a copy. So at the time, we're going to talk transcripts in more detail. We'll come back to that. The third step here is the application fee. Now, I am excited to share with you, and I believe that those who attended our previous webinar have already been provided this link, but in general, applications cost $65 as a processing fee, and it is non-refundable. At the College of Ed, we made a decision for this calendar year, this academic year, 2022 into 23, that all applicants to the College of Ed are going to be provided with a free application. We are very much wanting to make any barriers to an application removed. And so any financial barrier for any incoming applicant, we wanted to remove that barrier and provide the application at no cost. This means that you will be provided by us with a unique code connected to your name and the email address that we have on file for you right now. And that code is what you will type in at the very end of your application, and it waives that $65 fee. With that code, you then go to step 4, where you look at the additional materials required by your program. So that can include letters of recommendation, any other program specific application fees, which by the way, we do not have at the College of Ed. So actually we can scratch that part. But let's say that you or someone in your life decided to apply to a non-College of Ed program. You could potentially see other fees there, depending on the program, the nature of that program. So number 5, and I actually copied and pasted all of this text directly from the grad school website because I'd like to use their language. But the 5th part here states that you will select from the application page your desired program. And that will very much then send your application into the correct review portal. And we're going to talk in a minute about the 3-step review process for an application. Part 6 here, we talked about that briefly, but test scores may still be required for some programs at the discretion of the department. I will say that in the College of Ed, 95% of programs have also removed the test score requirement. School psychology still needs it for their own accreditation, but most programs do not. And so, again, that is a step that's easily removed for each of you. So let's talk now about the review cycle, because sometimes it can be very daunting to think about your application has been submitted, where is it sitting? And I think it's helpful for you all to have that flow chart understanding of how this works. So your application, when you hit submit, is sent directly to the graduate school. And that first layer of review there is simply focused on basically what I would call housekeeping. Are all of the materials submitted with the application, and does the incoming student's GPA meet the university requirements? And if so, and then are test scores needed for that program, the intended program? And if so, if all check boxes are marked there, they will then send it into stage 2, which is the internal review. So once it then transfers over to the internal review committee with the College of Ed, they will then do a deeper review. They will be looking at the cover letter that is submitted. They'll be looking at what is the student's expression of interest through that cover letter. And they'll begin to understand you as an applicant with that letter. I want you to know how helpful that letter actually is to our internal review committees. It is at times, our only introduction to you. Now, those of you who attend the webinars with me, you and we have all formed an initial introduction. But for the faculty reviewing your application, that cover letter is of utmost importance because, again, it is your first introduction to them. Within that letter, it is very important that you talk about how this academic program will help you to achieve your future career and professional goals and the connection there. It is also helpful to explain, even briefly, the path that has led you into your current profession and how this will lead into your future. So connecting the dots there. I think the phrase connecting the dots is helpful because it will show you as the applicant that you have potential there to share your story. And that's an exciting tool to be able to use. They will then be looking at your references. There are moments where they are making decisions of who they are admitting, and they may decide to contact your references. You may also choose to submit, and I always encourage this. It takes some time to collect, but if you have two people in your professional life who can speak to your academic success and or professional success, they can write a letter of recommendation for you that can be attached with your application, which then gives the internal committee a very beneficial additional details, information about you and your experiences and your strengths to then make that determination about admission. Any other materials that are submitted with your application. So they will be looking at your transcript to have an understanding of the coursework that you have completed with your previous degree. And ultimately, they'll be looking to see whether you are a fit for the program. And I don't mean to make that sound like a dating game, are we a good fit, but a very professional and academic educational fit. Is your previous experience well suited to then transition you into that program? And are your goals aligned with that program? Because there are moments where perhaps a student submits an application and then it is realized this is actually not a best fit for their goals. And so that second step takes a bit longer because it is focused on those things. And once the internal committee decides to takes that time to review it and then makes their decision, it then transitions back to the graduate school. At that point, they will notify the student. A formal decision letter will be rendered to the applicant on ISU letterhead from the graduate school. And there are 3 levels of acceptance. There is full acceptance. There is acceptance with a performance requirement. It's called a PR. The reason that a PR would be given is if perhaps an applicant's previous GPA was close, but not yet at that minimum, but it was close enough. And with the cover letter and the references, the internal committee felt that this student could be given a chance. The performance requirement, the PR, could then require of the student, for example, to say that in the first semester, they must meet a certain GPA as a College of Ed grad student in order to maintain their enrollment in that program. So there's full acceptance, there can be acceptance with a performance requirement, or there can be a denial of admission. And so that official notification will come from the graduate school. Now, you might ask, why would a student not be accepted? I will say that it can be as simple actually as that stage 1 of the GPA. It can be as simple as GPA. It can be a more complicated decision for the grad school and College of Ed. Perhaps it was both GPA and the question of fit. And perhaps the committee could feel that for an applicant that providing a performance requirement would still not be best suited for that applicant. And so those would be the situations in which an application would not be accepted. But that notification would come directly from the grad school. And then, of course, the applicant can reach out for any of those decisions, can reach back out to the grad school or the College of Education. And to me, as Director of Grad Studies, also an applicant can reach out to me for clarification. And to the extent that I am legally able, I can then provide some answers. So let's say that a student is accepted in that third step. The letter would also provide some further details about a student ID number and a university email address for that newly admitted student. And then at that point, the College of Ed also begins to send our own correspondence to the accepted student with a notification of the name of the academic advisor assigned to the student and a congratulations and welcome note from us. This 3-step application timeline and review process can take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. simply because the internal committee, for example, needs adequate time to accept their students and make decisions. Let's say it's a certain program within the College of Ed where there's a higher number of applicants for a certain program, and perhaps a less, they are not able within a cohort size to take all of those. It can take more time to make that decision, but typically 2 to 4 weeks is fairly common. And I will tell you that those priority deadlines that we talked about earlier, that is the point at which these 3 stages of review begin to happen. So whether it's November 1st or April 1st, that is the point at which the programs begin to actually start the review process. So let's talk now about transcripts. So perhaps some of you have attended ISU in the past, and if so, this part is incredibly easy for you on the ISU side because your transcript is already stored in our records. There is nothing further that you need to do. Now, many of you may have attended other institutions, and therefore you will need to request your transcript. The way to do this is to go to, you have 2 options. I've shared a screenshot here of the National Student Clearinghouse. When you go to this website, and you can simply Google that name, National Student Clearinghouse, you will then find your institution. You will you will need to know your former student ID from that institution, but you will request that they send your official transcripts to Idaho State University. You can also simply go to the registrar's website of your former institution, and they often have a link to this same clearinghouse, and you can request it directly from their website. I want to quickly define what it means to say official transcript. Some of you may know this, but we use the phrase official transcript because it is official in the sense that no eyes have touched it. This is not something that there's no chance that an applicant has created these grades on their own that they have typed up, and there's no chance of error in that academic record of the applicant because it is truly sent through mail, sealed and approved by the former institution, sent directly to Idaho State University. And so the official transcript has to be conducted that way. You will not see it at all. Now you can request a copy for yourself, and that is called the unofficial transcript. It is very easy to request the unofficial and to be able to download that yourself and print it out. You can also have it mailed to you, the unofficial. And that is something that you can, if you were to get into a bind at the time that you apply, because I always say that it's good to go ahead and request your official transcript even before you apply. If you know that you are going to apply, I would even request your official transcripts next week. If you plan to apply by November 1st for spring of 23, I would go ahead and request your official transcript because it can take about a month for them to arrive. Now, let's say that does not happen before you officially submit your application. It is perfectly acceptable for you to submit with your application the unofficial transcript, a PDF copy of it that you have downloaded with your application. It is very acceptable that the university can use that to review your application, but you will still need to ensure that the official copy has been received very soon after the application is submitted. So that's why I suggest the best practice would be start with that. Start with your transcripts and request those very soon. All right. So let's talk now about, we talked briefly about the cover letter, and we talked about and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So we talked about the cover letter, we talked about transcripts, we talked about references, transcripts, all of that. Those are the primary materials submitted with your application. It is unlikely at the College of Ed that any other materials would be requested by you, with one exception. There are moments where the the doctoral program, doctorate of education program, might request the writing sample from you. But we have new faculty in that program, and they may wish to have a different model now going forward for those applications. So you will be notified at the time that you apply and at the time they are reviewing your application. You will be able to, you'll hear directly from them. So I give you a foreshadowing of what could be expected of you, but it will not be requested of you at the time that you submit your application. It's not something that you have to submit to the graduate school. It would be submitted later to a faculty member. So one other thing I will say, we have some programs at the College of Ed who will are beginning to shift to fall admission. The doctorate, let me rephrase this. We have 3 doctoral tracks in the College of Ed. They are all doctorate of education degrees. The higher education track of the education doctorate is very much wanting to shift to a fall cycle of entry. So any of you tonight interested in that program would apply for the fall of 2023, because at this time in that program, they are at capacity for this year, and they would not be accepting spring of 23 applications. All of our other programs at this point are accepting spring 2023 applications. So I say that to you just as a quick nuance or heads up, for example, if that is your area of interest. The other thing I will say about the application process is that we realize that you are, it's hard to wait. It is hard to wait for those answers. So I've shared with you that it can take 2 to 4 weeks for admission. If it were to take longer than that, it would be more rare for it to do that, for it to take longer. But if so, reach out to me, and I am able to, I am not a decision maker in your application, but I certainly am privy to noticing where your application sits within the queue. And we can have that conversation privately if at any point you had questions about it. And once a student is accepted, one other quick paperwork item that is of utmost importance is that you will ultimately, I often joke, you're accepting your acceptance. So you're accepted into the program, and there is a form with the graduate school that you will need to complete in order to confirm that you accept that acceptance, you intend to enroll, and at that point, you become an official student of record for Idaho State. You can also make a decision to defer. There are numerous reasons why an individual would choose to defer. Life circumstances change. We have individuals who apply, let's say in the spring, for fall semester entry, and something happens. They have a medical need. They're caregiving for a family member. Let's say that on the undergraduate side at ISU, a student decides to go on a mission. There are numerous reasons why ISU does allow a 1-year deferral of admission without having to reapply. If for any reason you are accepted and you then realize that you can't start within 1 year, it does require a reapplication, and it does require paying the fee again. Now, I would, of course, help you to have that fee removed for as many years going forward as I am able. I imagine at College of Ed, we will waive that application fee for the next 5 years at least. But just to let you know, as you respond to a decision letter at ISU, you can fully accept or you can defer for up to 1 year. But then we would need to know from you, and the grad school would wish to know, when do you intend to start? Is it the next semester or is it the following year? All right, so that was actually about a 25-minute overview of the application process. So I am going to pause in my talking and defer to you all now for questions. And I am going to let these initial questions be recorded, if you don't mind, because I think they will benefit other people who might watch this recording later. but I will also stay on afterwards if you have like a one-on-one question that is private, and we can do that off camera. So are there any application related questions I can answer?
Actually, not for me. I thought you were very clear, and I feel comfortable moving forward if that's what I end up doing. So thank you.
Wonderful. I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah.
I had a quick question about transcripts. Since I'm currently an ISU student, I'm assuming my ISU ones will be easy. I did attend another university previously, which I did already give ISU my transcripts for that. Would I have to get my transcripts for ISU for the grad?
That is such a great question. They should still be on file for you.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm
if
just
you've
like-
already. Mhm.
Wasn't sure if I needed to redo it for the grad school.
Right, right. You should not have to. They will notify you if so, but you
Okay.
should not. You should not.
I'm like happy to do it, just was curious.
Well, there's no need to pay for it a second time. I know it's not like the application fee of $65, but there is still
No,
a
they're
fee.
anywhere from like 2 to 10.
Right. But still, like, there's no need for you to spend that
Yeah.
money, and they should still have it.
Okay, I was just curious.
Great question.
I think that was my main question.
Okay. Okay. Well, like I said, going forward, let me be a point of contact for you. If you all have any further questions, reach out to me. You have my email, you have my appointment link. I'm here as a resource. With your blessing, I am also going to make sure, I'm going to, first of all, make sure you both have a code for a free application. And so I'll make sure of that. But I also will request your feedback. And when I send you a note, if you would not mind, when you get my email, a very quick 1-minute survey of, was this helpful? Would you recommend the session for future applicants like yourselves? Is this something that clarified things for you and was beneficial? Or what is needed to make it so for the next group of applicants?
Yes, absolutely.
Happy to do that.
Thank you both so much. Well, it was a joy to meet you. I am now going to hit recording, and I will do that right now. Turn that off.